Welcome to the Platypod bonus session. Thank you guys for tuning in this evening. We hope you're having a lot of fun. We know there are hundreds of you all over the planet, and I would start this session by inviting you to participate in the chat and in the Q&A, because at the end of this session, as it's wrapping up, we're actually going to answer your questions in the moment. Now, I know that some of you don't know what a platypod is. Some of you are new to the Kelby world, and some of you are new to platypods. And I just had this experience last week where I was talking with some photographers and videographers, and I showed them a platypod, and they were like, "That is so cool." Now, these have been around since 2015. They've been in the hands of pro photographers since 2015, but there's still a group of people that have not seen platypods. So let me tell you the very, very basics. Tripods are great. Tripods hold your camera stable so that you can take pictures and have your camera steady and stable. But the challenge is these are not tiny, right? Even the small ones are challenging to carry and to use in different kinds of places. And it's also tough to get them low to the ground. And so the concept of platypod is that it is a small, low, flat surface like this. And it's actually holding a traditional photography ball head, you can see, and it just goes flat. And there are spikes that are available that can dig into the ground, or little rubber feet on it that you can like put it like that. And it comes with the spikes and the rubber feet with each model of platypod. But the point is, it's the best, the smartest alternative to a tripod. It's portable, it's easy to pack, it's small, flat, and travels well. And this company, Platypod, has continued to grow by asking questions like, what could be better? What could be improved? What's wrong with what's frustrating about certain pieces of photo gear? And so as we go through this evening, you're going to get lots of tips and tricks and behind the scenes and pro photographer perspectives of all kinds of great shoots. But at the same time, you're also going to see some of this really cool gear. And I just love it when we get to do this, because I know there are going to be photographers out there that are looking at this for the very first time going, why didn't I know about this? This is amazing. It's really helpful. Tonight, the gentleman hosting this entire process is the guy who invented the platypod and all kinds of other great photo gear. His name is Dr. Larry Tioefenbrunn. Dr. T, it is so great to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And I am going to hand things off to you so that you can tell our audience all kinds of great stuff about photography and techniques and behind the scenes and stuff like that.
Well, and it's great to be here, Larry, and good to see you again. And, thank you so much to the KelbyOne organization for allowing us to be here and allowing us to be a sponsor of this conference, as well as many other KelbyOne functions. So, welcome aboard to the 2023 KelbyOne ON1 Photographers Conference. And I have to make a little disclaimer here. This presentation, this bonus session, has nothing to do with ON1 software, but it has a lot to do with how to get you to take more interesting, different kind of perspectives in your images, different kinds of compositions to bring into your ON1 software and give you some fantastic photos. And we're going to go through tonight and show you a bunch of photos from some world-famous photographers who have used Platypod equipment, and to kind of give you an overview. Now, some of you have been at my conferences, as my presentations before, and they're all a little bit different. This one's going to kind of be an overview of all our current Platypod equipment, and we have added a few new pieces of equipment over the past year or so. So even for those of you who have seen our presentations before, there'll be some interesting new things for you to see. And to join and understand the Platypod ecosystem and how it can actually change your photography. You can buy a camera bag and you can buy a nice strap, and there's a lot of things that you can do for your camera to make it more convenient. But our equipment gets you to look at things differently, to shoot your images differently, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Larry, might want to mention to people what they can do as far as if they want to join in the chat and how we'll respond. And then I'll dive right into our presentation.
Okay, great. So we are going to receive messages behind the scenes from you guys typing things into the chat. Now we're going to ask you to do it in either the Q&A or the chat, and we've got somebody watching that. And so as we get close to the end of the presentation hour, I'm going to receive those questions from you guys. Those will show up on my computer, and then I will ask Dr. Tiefenbrunn about whatever questions you guys come up with. So feel free to ask those questions. We're not going to do it in the moment, so if you ask something in the next 3 minutes, it's not going to be answered in 5 minutes. It'll be answered toward the end of the presentation, at the end of the hour.
Although we do have some of the Platypod staff in the background who might answer brief questions. If you want to just put them in the chat there, they'll be answering in on the chat as well. So let's move right ahead into our presentation. And again, for those of you just joining us now, this is the Platypod bonus section for the KelbyOne ON1 Photographers Conference. And our presentation is called Boost Creativity with Platypod Tools, and that's exactly what I plan to show you as to how you can boost the way that you look at the world and the way that you look at your subjects when taking new images. The first slide, just to mention, as Larry mentioned, we have two main products, the Platypod Extreme and the Platypod Ultra. And let me break out here for 1 second. This is a Platypod Ultra. It's about the size of a smartphone. It can fit right into your pocket. And you think of it as your tripod legs. And you can take this and you can put any ball head on here, practically any ball head. But this one's meant for more compact equipment. I would say camera lens combinations under 900 grams. If you're going to go over that, then I recommend using our larger model, which is the Platypod Extreme. It's about 5.5 by 8 inches, and it will fit in a pants pocket, certainly in the side of your camera bag, and it'll hardly displace any space. You won't have to leave a lens at home to take this along with you. We'll talk a little bit more about the spike system and the differences between the two models in a few minutes, but that's just to give you a brief introduction. Back to the slides. And this first image is an older image, but I wanted to bring it up because hang on 1 second here, it exemplifies what Platypod is all about. This is from Rick Salmon, who many of you know, who's written over, I would say, 50 books on photography. And Rick likes to tell people, use your camera like a helicopter. Use your camera like a drone. Go up, go down, go left, right, go around your subject and examine what would give the most interesting image. Now, most people would walk into this room, this was done in one of Rick's workshops in China, and look at the woman working at the loom, very nice setting, take the picture pretty much like the behind the scenes shot that you see on the left, and that would be okay. You could come home and, show people, show your family what you did. But if you want to get a truly artistic image, try to think different. Try to look at this in a different way. And that's exactly what Rick did. Drop the camera down to floor level with a wide angle lens. And now you're picking up leading lines from the bottom, leading your eyes up, the fingers and the loom pattern itself, the weave pattern itself, takes your eye up in this direction, and then the lines, the threads in the loom lead you right up to the woman's face, lit with beautiful window Rembrandt lighting. And most of you know what Rembrandt lighting means, but for those who don't, it's creating a loop of shadow around the eye that's more distant from the light, just like you see here. And this just outlines the face. The highlights will highlight the image, it'll show the image, and the shadows define the image. And this can only be accomplished from the position this was in Rick probably did this as a slightly longer exposure and wanted to maintain ultimate sharpness. So a tripod helps, but a standard tripod would be too tall to get this shot.
You know, I think the fact that the Platypod gives you the ability to put the camera at the ground level and stable and quickly, that opens up so many more possibilities than just, you've got a tripod. Potentially, you could take this shot with a tripod, but I mean, it's going to take a long time to set it up. And you don't generally think like that. And when you've got this already assembled, small, low to the ground option in your hands, I mean, it just goes so much faster. It's much more likely that you'll look for those kinds of shots and get them.
Now, if you're wondering why the Platypod that you see in the image looks a little different than what I'm showing you, this is our older model called Platypod Max. We are actually sold out of Platypod Max. If you still want to get your hands on one, I believe B&H Photo has several dozen of these in stock at a really good price, so you could check it out over there. Next image from Alabama nature photographer Cecil Holmes is showing how you can use the Platypod Ultra with some spikes on rocks. Now, the purpose of the spikes is to allow you to avoid the camera either rattling or slipping when on the rocks, which certainly you don't want to do near the water. And the Platypod allowed Cecil to get a long exposure, getting this flowing water effect. I would guess the exposure here was somewhere between a second and 6 or 10 seconds. You need to have relative shade to get this kind of image. Bright sunlight would be very difficult. Otherwise, you'd have to use a neutral density filter, which he might have done anyway here, to be able to allow him to get a very long exposure without overexposing the image. But this is a shot that everybody, I think, should practice at. It's very satisfying, and it's good for your basic photography skills. Just to show you again, the Platypod Ultra comes with a strap to strap it around some a pole or a railing, a narrow pole or a railing. This will go up to about 4 inches in diameter. But it also comes with a set of spikes. These spikes are common to all our platypods. They're about 2 inches long. They are kind of sharp at the tip to allow grip on rock rock or concrete. And you just simply screw this in here, and you can get grip. You can either use one spike at the tip, you can use 3 spikes if you like, making this a true tripod, or you can use all 4 spikes in the corners for maximum balance. And in a little while, I'll show you the difference between that and the spikes that are used in the Platypod Extreme. So back to our image here. And next one is from Jeff Wiswell. Jeff is an F-Stoppers writer and reviewer, a fine photographer, as well as a fellow physician. And Jeff was on a family vacation in Lisbon, Portugal, wanting to get this beautiful blue hour image of this plaza. If you want to learn more about the blue hour, look up the name Deb Sandage, a Nikon ambassador who's done a lot of work on blue hour photography. In fact, I believe she's given some sessions at some of these KelbyOne conferences. And to get this image, you need to get low to the ground again, because you want to get these leading lines from the upward angle and also catch some reflections off the ground. And Jeff accomplished that beautifully in this image. Also, one minor comment, you notice the starbursts around the lights over here. If anybody wants to know how to achieve that, it's a simple trick. When you're dealing with a digital camera instead of film, if you stop down your lens to f/16, f/22, or even smaller for the aperture, you'll produce these little starbursts, especially when you have light hitting the edge of something or with these fine point electric lights. But if you want to get a starburst with the sun, catch the sun right at the edge of, let's say, a wall or something like that, and you'll be able to catch those starbursts as well. Next image is from Skylum ambassador and photographer Robert Vanelli, well known as Vanelli, taken in Scotland at the Edinburgh Castle. in a stormy, stormy weather. From the BTS shot here, it looks like it must have been raining just before this. The ground is all wet. And again, with the Platypod Extreme and his spikes deployed, he was able to get good grip on this rock, and without having to drag around a tripod all day. You can almost always find a place to put down a platypod, whether it be a rock, or you'll see in other cases a railing or a stone wall or something like that, to be able to get your images. And I'll break out for a second here to show you a close-up view of the Platypod Extreme, which is what Vanelli used in that image. And what's nice about the Extreme, it looks like a big brother or big sister of the Platypod Ultra, but instead of having to screw in the spikes, we can deploy here all 4 spikes in the matter of 3 seconds. I'll demonstrate. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, and I've got 4 spikes deployed in a trapezoid pattern, which gives you wonderful stability here. And if you want, you can angle these spikes a little bit back so that if you would like to place it on an incline, it'll grip nicely on the incline. We have a nice image from Dave Williams on one of our websites to show blogs to show how this could be done even on a wall of ice, and it will grip. The other thing that you can do with the spikes is if you want to place it with rubber feet down, it will go directly up and down, and you can put this on your car hood, on fine furniture, and not mar the furniture that way. The alternate to doing that would be just to using the rubber pad that's contained in our multi-accessory kit, and you can just basically take a platypod and slap it down on the rubber pad, and that will allow you to put it on your car hood as well. Larry, any questions on that before I
We're starting to
slide?
No, nothing that I'm going to ask yet, but we are starting to collect some questions from our viewers, so that's a good sign. And
okay, a few other little features just to mention on the Platypod Extreme. Like the Ultra, it has these arms here. The reason it has these arms is so that you can strap it onto things. So we use a 36-inch strap for the Extreme that comes with our multi-accessory kit as well, together with that rubber pad I showed you. And this will go around a medium-sized tree trunk up to about 9 or 10 inches in diameter. You can Velcro it shut, or you can use the belt loops here. And I'll delve into the accessory kit a little bit more later, but that's what those arms are for. Carrying handle at the top. There are several mounting points so that you can screw this onto a board, a tree, even onto a wall for semi-permanent mounting, and even onto beams overhead. So you can just imagine all the different things that Platypod enables you to do for mounting your camera in different situations. So that's the Platypod Extreme. I'll go back to the slides here. And the next image is from Samantha Kennedy. Samantha was out at Johns Island, South Carolina, visiting this angel oak tree, which was over 300 years old. And the reason I put this slide, and besides the fact it's a beautiful image, and I think Samantha was able to clear out the crowds from here by using the median function in Photoshop, which will allow any object or any person that's moved around in an image to kind of disappear. And you can look up a little bit more about that. But if you look at the sign over here, the first thing stated on the sign is, what does that say, Larry?
No tripods.
No tripods allowed. We call the hashtag tripod police. And this is an issue when you're going to historic sites, museums, libraries, churches, Grand Central Station, or the Empire State Building in Manhattan. I'm an old-time New Yorker. These places do not allow tripods, whether it's because it's a tripping hazard or whether it's because they just don't want commercial photographers there. They don't allow tripods. I hardly ever hear about anyone getting turned away for a platypod. The guards don't care. You can just set it up You can take your long exposure image or your low angle or tight space image using the platypods there, and you will have no problem. Next image is from, I guess you've heard of Scott Kelby. And as you can see in the behind the scenes shot, Scott is sitting comfortably in this pew while he's taking the picture of this church with these strong leading lines. We're going to keep coming back to this. I'm going to show you some more images where you just get this dramatic effect. Plus, low to the ground, you catch the reflections. Remember that. We'll see some more of that. And, he was able to just get this with his camera tipped back on a Platypod Ultra. I probably would have used the Extreme. Scott likes to slip an Ultra in his pocket and have that wherever he goes. And that's really a key thing to note. Our equipment is not meant to be left at home. Keep it in your camera bag, because this is for when you didn't think you were going to need a tripod, or for situations where tripods don't work or they're not allowed. If it's in your camera bag with a little ball head, and we'll show you some of our ball heads in a second, you'll always have a tripod available, and that's so important.
Yeah, I'll go you one better, Dr. T. I actually carry mine with me in my car all the time. So whether or not I'm planning photography, I have it with me because my phone is a fantastic camera. So even if I leave cameras at home, my phone is a great camera. I have a camera holder mount for my Platypod. I carry my Platypod with me everywhere.
And that's exactly what I do. And I think if our viewers will get used to that concept, that's where you'll get the most use out of the Platypod. Again, I said it's not for all your images, just the best ones. All right, the next shot is from our friend, ambassador, portrait photographer, KelbyOne instructor, Hilmar Smith. And Hilmar is demonstrating how platypods can get into really tight spaces where other cameras dare not go. And that includes postal boxes, ovens. We've had them put in all kinds of strange places. Also good in caves where you want to outline your image with the surrounding rock, where you want to frame the image. Platypod allows you to do that really, really well in the tightest of spaces.
I've seen real estate photographers doing brilliant things like that, because there are so many times that you wish you could get a wide angle of a particular room, but you can't get the camera far enough back in the corner to really show the best wide angle view. And some of these real estate photographers that use a Platypod that put it back in the corner on the kitchen cabinets, it just works out so much better. Just those extra few inches makes all the difference.
Well, now, Larry, we're going to break out for a second to show you our next star product, and that is Platball. And I'm going to go into this really briefly. I've dealt with it in much more detail in the past, but the Platball, let's hone in here a little bit. The Platball, this is the Platball Ergo, and this is the Platball Elite. And they're essentially the same except for one feature, which I'll show you in a moment. And these are meant to use as a tripod head. And you can place it on any tripod, and I'll show you that a little bit later, on a regular tripod, or you can certainly place it on a Platypod. It eliminates the knobs, and that's important because the knobs are often difficult to find what you need. And you're fumbling for which control, whether it's the tension control or the panning control. With the Platball, you just place your hand. I usually use my left hand because my right hand's on a shutter button soon. Place your hand right on it, and your fingers fall right on the control. This button, the lower button, unlocks it. It's pressing on some gears inside there. You pump on the upper button, and you'll feel the tension. We don't have a separate tension knob because you don't need it. You'll feel it right in your fingers here. Okay, now it's nice and tight. This thumb wheel here, pull it back 2 or 3 times, and it loosens the panning head, which moves really, really smoothly. And then there's a control here. You can see there's a button. This is a safety release button. I'm going to tighten the head over here. And this allows you to lock your camera in place. And you can use a quick release mount like this one, that is called an ARCA style quick release mount because of the grooves here that were originally designed by a company called ARCA Swiss. And that will lock right into here. Let's got a D-ring in the way, and we'll show you why we've eliminated D-rings on our own quick release. And you see that'll lock the camera nicely in place. We have a ARCA plate that's different from everybody else's because I do everything different than everybody else does.
You do.
And there is one included with the Platball. I have mine mounted. That's in silver here, so I have it mounted on camera. And I have this one here. And let's just quickly show you how to mount a camera here. So I just place this right in the middle. You'll hear a ratchet, and it is clicking in place. I do it snug, and then I do it a little bit more just to get it super snug and secure. And now I can control my camera with one hand, which you really can't do with other tripod heads because your hands are below on the controls while the camera is moving at the top. And the other thing is that even if the tripod legs are not even, you're still going to pan evenly because our panning function is at the top, not the bottom. If that's difficult to understand, go to platball.com or go to the Platypod website, and on the Platball page, you'll see some videos that are describing how that works. So very, very easy to use. Now, what the Platball Elite adds to the Ergo, it does cost a little bit more, but a lot of people don't like to use the leveling function on the back of their camera because it takes them off the focusing screens and functions, or they don't have it, or the screen doesn't flip out sideways if the camera is facing towards them. So for those who want to use a different type of setup, we have the world's first tripod head with an electronic leveling indicator on it. And the way that this works is really simple. You just turn it on. It's powered by a small A23 alkaline battery and used on medium power. It'll last you a good amount of time. And then if you can see this, I'm doing it backwards, so bear with me. And you can see all you have to do is line up 4 arrows and you're nice and level. And if you want to tip the ball head back and still level, well, then just line up the 2 horizontal arrows. Same thing for down. It works in 6 different orientations, upside down, and you cannot do that with a standard bubble level that you'll find on most tripod heads. And usually these are covered up by the camera or lens so you can't see it, or at nighttime you certainly can't see it. Not an issue for Platball. There's many more features on this, a little bit more than we have time to go into, so please, I'll refer you to platypod.com, or you can go to platyball.com and learn all about that. Larry, did I leave anything out there?
Well, a couple little things that I would also mention, and you showed how you use Platball, either one, the Ergo or the Elite, with one hand. And it's awesome because you do have one single-handed grip. The other hand can be doing anything, working on the camera, working on your camera settings, and your camera is always secure and safe because even when it's loose, you still have that one-handed grip. But it could be either hand. So I've tried it with right-handed use and left-handed use, and it's just as easy for me. I am a right-handed person, but I find it very easy to use my left hand as the one-handed operating controller of either of the Platyballs. One other thing I would mention is, Dr. T, you saw him pressing those buttons multiple times, and on traditional high-end ball heads, they have a separate knob for tension, to change the tension for the ball action. Well, with the pressing these mechanical buttons on the Platball, you can pick how much tension you want exactly, and you can feel it in that one-handed grip. So all at once, as you're pressing those buttons, you pick how much tension you want, and you've still got it all in one hand, and it's just that single-handed, no knob, easy control of the entire ball head.
But there's a warning, Larry. Once you get used to this, you may never want to go back to a regular ball head again.
That's true.
I do warn all of you. Don't say I didn't tell you. All right, let's go into our next slide. We still got a A lot of great things to cover here. This again is from Samantha Kennedy, who happens to be from Long Island, and I have dubbed Samantha the queen of the sunrise. Her sunrise images are just absolutely amazing. You should take a look at her Instagram site. And here, telling a story with the sunrise, this egret sitting on these pilings, waiting for the sun to come up and all that. There's just so much feeling in this beautiful image. And Samantha just does this over and over again, just knocking out incredible images of the sunrises. Again, if you're in Long Island, you want the sun over the ocean, it's sunrise because sunset's in the west, and you're not going to see this. Next image is from commercial photographer and I think one of the first Photoshop World Hall of Famers, Eddie Tapp.
Oh, yeah.
Eddie does a little bit of everything. Here he's showing how he uses the Platball for fashion photography. And because the Platball can turn both left and right, we have détente on both sides, you're able to easily use this in portrait or landscape mode. Personally, I recommend using an L bracket for most of your heavy-duty photography work, because then you can easily shift. But certainly, when you need this in a pinch, no problem. You can go into portrait and landscape very easily. Some tripod heads only allow you to go in one direction. Another shot from Eddie, totally different. This, believe it or not, is in Georgia, in Helen, Georgia, the Eagle Owl Castle. And Eddie wanted to include some of the beautiful gardens in front of the castle at dusk, catching in some of the lights here and everything. So he mounted, if you look in the inset here, he mounted his camera right on top of the stone wall here, was able to angle it down and take a long exposure to bring in all, the exposure on this is just absolutely stunning. Eddie's wearing a headset here. I have no idea who he's talking to, but Eddie's just an incredible photographer, and expect to see more work from him with Platypod. We've got some projects lined up down the line with Eddie Tapp. Here's one of my own. Okay, guys, now I got to put myself on the line here. Another reason to always carry a Platypod with you, and either our Platyball or another little ball head with you, is because you never know when you're going to want to take a really nice selfie. I'm not talking about the kind where you're holding your iPhone from arm's length, but the kind where you set up your shot, you've got the landscape in the background, you want to catch some reflection off the water, so you're going low to the ground, and here's that shot. Yes, this one's more of a snapshot, but look what we've got going next. This is how my wife Minna and I celebrated July the 4th. We wanted to spend it with George Washington. He, of course, was not available, so we went for his bridge instead. Found a place that we could go right under the center of the Jersey side of the GW Bridge. And here's the setup. And let me talk about this for a second. I wanted an image centered right dead center under the bridge. Now, this is a bit of a trick. Yes, you probably all know about composition with rule of thirds and all that, but there's also a type of composition which is symmetry. But to get symmetry, you've really got to line it up well, or the image will not work. So to get this real precise, I got down low to the ground with the Platypod. Now, you could say, well, I could have maybe handheld that and got a similar image. Here was the problem. If you look in the right-hand image, at the foot of the arch here, of the tower, the Jersey Tower of the GW Bridge, at the foot there's a beam connecting the 2 feet of the arch of the tower. And if you look a little more close up, here is that same beam. Now, if you look over to the New York side of the bridge, there's this little red lighthouse that's known as the Little Red Lighthouse. And it's cut off. That's when taken from standard chest or shoulder height. Plus, you've got buildings in the background which are very distracting. And this ends up being the final destination of the eye movement of the picture we're setting up. Now, if you look below, here is a close-up. You can see the lighthouse in its entirety. There's actually some boats in the background. And when you blow this image up the way that I did to 17 by 22 print, here's what you get.
Wow.
Now, I'll talk about this for a second. First of all, I was going to shoot this image. It was a stormy day. In fact, it was a thunderstorm 20 minutes later here. Stormy day, lots of threatening clouds. But, and I was going to do this in grayscale, but when I saw the thin layer of rust on some of these, on the wooden, on the steel beams here, it gave it so much character. And if you zoom in on this, you'll also see, you can see every single rivet, every single bolt in these girders. So what happens here is now the eye is led down by these leading lines coming from the clouds. You're coming down to the bottom here. Then you're soaring upward with the leading lines in the towers, getting you to the top of the image. It's like riding a roller coaster, and then you're coming back down. And when you reach the end, you catch the little red lighthouse in the end. So there's a final destination target in this picture, and I shouldn't toot my own horn, but I'm proud of how this one came out. Any comment, Larry?
I think it's a great image, and when you said you were going to do black and white, the green just jumps out at me. The green along the base.
That pop of green. That's
just
right.
Beautiful.
So you got a little hint of blue in the clouds, you got the rust on the bridge, you got a little green here, and some red. You've got a lot of color in this, what could have been a grayscale image. All right, next one. Bob Coates, Sedona, Arizona-based, does it all, commercial photographer and Platypod pro, and Bob really does it all. I think any project I've ever given him to do, he has come through with flying colors. Shows his Platypod setup on a rock. I'm not gonna, you guys already, I think, understand what's happening here. And he points his camera right at the North Star, Polaris, and with some long exposures, which he kind of stacked up here together with an image of the foreground. But with his camera, with his Olympus camera, he's able to catch these light trails with colors in the stars. And I don't recall ever seeing anybody do that this well. I'm sure someone has, but not in my experience. I think Bob just knocked this one out beautifully. And more Milky Way images, and Bob actually does workshops on Milky Way photography. If anybody's interested, take a look at Bob Coates' website, and you can sign up for one of his workshops, and he'll teach you how to get these images. Not as easy as it looks, but Bob makes it look very, very easy. And next, I want to talk about vertiramas. And most of you, I think, don't know about this. You all know what a panorama is. So that's where you're taking an image, you're panning side to side. Well, a vertirama takes that concept and goes vertically. And I want to show you kind of how Bob set this up. So I'm going to break out here, and we'll come back to this image in a second. Okay, so I'm taking a tripod, and I extended one of the legs here just to give this a little bit more stability, because I can't open up the entire tripod. But when you do open your tripod fully, there's no problem with balance here. We'll take the Platball and put this on here. And now we're just going to tighten it and level it up. And actually, we're going to level it sideways. And I can actually see the leveling on my indicator in the back here. All right. And now I am basically level, and I will take a camera. Now, to do these well, you want to try to do it in a landscape orientation. The reason for that is, let's say you have 2,000 by 3,000 pixels. When you do the vertirama this way, you're going to get more horizontal pixels and plenty of vertical pixels, because you're going to be moving the camera. So here, I'm just going to tighten this into the Platball. And let's just ratchet that into place. There we go. And now what you're going to do is loosen the panning function and point a little towards the ground. Take your first shot. Move it up. You want to overlap your images by about 30 to 50%, and then in software, you'll have a much easier time doing the overlapping and stitching together the panorama, or in this case, the vertirama. And then you just keep shooting up, 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 shoot each time. And then when you come all the way to the end, make sure you're not in the image there, and then come back down to the ground. So now that you've seen what is done, let's look at the result. And as you can see, what Bob did, now he did this first as a daytime image, and I'll show you a nighttime one in a second. So basically he has, you can see in the film strip, all the different shots. They're stitched together in Photoshop. Now, Bob recommends stitching these first horizontally because Photoshop does a better job at this with the entire thing tipped horizontally, and then you flip it up vertically and then make your adjustments. You can either crop this out for where the stitching, where there's gaps, or you can use your fill functions to fill in any gaps over there. And then the final image, you can see foreground over here, looking all the way up, and now you're looking behind the camera in the background. Very interesting kind of shot to take, and I'd encourage you to look up a little bit more on vertiramas. Now you'll see how Bob employed this to do a Milky Way shot where you get the entire sky view of the Milky Way in one image, over 180 degrees from bottom to top with the same kind of thing. Now, Bob got a little fancy here. He used a focusing rail to be able to balance the nodal point, the center point of the camera over the center of the Platball. You can do this. I'm not sure you have to be that precise, but Bob is quite a technician, and he wanted perfection here, and I think that's what he got. And again, you can see the film strip of all the original images that were stacked together here. Any questions about that, Larry?
No, I just have a comment. I love his work, but that is one of my favorite Milky Way shots I've ever seen from anybody. Just a beautiful, beautiful composition.
Yeah, I mean, other than using a fisheye lens with a 180-degree function, I don't know how else you can really get this this type of an image to be able to see everything top to bottom. And he's got Milky Way everywhere in this image. All right, next one is, hang on, there we go. Oh, let's talk a little bit about the Platypod handle. And Larry, you're very well versed in this piece of equipment, but I'm gonna break out for a second, okay, to show you the Platypod handle. The handle is essentially a riser, and it comes in about a 6.5-inch length, which can easily be extended to 10.5 inches, which can also be broken down to 3 inches. I'm going a little closer here. Take off the cap, take off the bottom, and now it's a 3-inch riser, giving you multiple function to be able to accomplish several different tasks. Very, very useful, especially in product photography, in food photography, and we'll show you a few ways that this is used. But that's the basic function of the Platypod handle. Now, it also sports an Arca-compatible disc at the bottom, so I could take this and place it on the Arca head of either the Platball or just this, let's say this Benro tripod head, and just place this in there. This will work on any Arca head. Plus, it also has a 3/8-inch mount at the bottom so that you can place it on a Platypod.
Or a tripod.
And then you could put your camera ball head right on top of that, or Platball right on top of that. So it's multiple adapters. It also has, let's see if you can see that, 8 mounting holes around it, all threaded for 1/4 inch, so that we can attach on attachments such as these elbows. And the magic arm elbows will allow you to move around in several directions. And if you want to attach on a light like this on a gooseneck, well, I can just put that right on here, and with these thumb screws, I can mount that in here. If you want to mount a small camera on it, well, you could do that too. You can mount microphones. You can mount reflectors like this mirror onto it. So it gives you a lot of functions. So this becomes a really great tool, and this is a little bit out of the scope of this talk, but it's a really great tool for vloggers, as shown in this image by our friend Dave Williams.
Oh, you got to show that on screen. Flip to that on screen.
Knight.
Dr. T.
Oh, here
there
we
you
go.
go.
Yep, here's your slide. There's Dave Williams going a little crazy with his Platypod handle, but he's got a camera, he's got a monitor, he's got a microphone, and he's got lights on there. Dave did something interesting with this in that he put his Platball and Platypod Extreme at the bottom, so he can pick this up, put this down on surfaces, but he's also using the Platball as a little bit of a counterweight, which allows this to have somewhat of a gimbal effect. And I think that's self-explanatory, so I'm not going to show that right now. But another use for the handle is to use as a mount for a monolight, as a commercial photographer and photojournalist and Platypod Pro Rick Friedman is showing here, for low-angle lighting, where he lights up the train of this woman's dress using a Platypod on the ground with a handle on top of that. And I can show you briefly how you can do that. So here is my old trusty monolight. Here is a Platypod with handle on it. And if I simply take one of our spigot adapters, this is also included in our multi-accessory kit, and place that right on here, I can mount that in here. And since this is a little rear heavy, I would put the rear towards the rear of the Platypod. Now you've got a mount that you can put, you can use for background lighting, rim lighting, great for going on the floor. If you want to go lower, well, then just use the 3-inch riser. But you have a lot of possibilities over here. Any questions on that setup, Larry?
No, that was really good. I use that kind of setup myself, and I don't know if you're going to show it tonight, but I also clamp my Platypod to a table to kind of stabilize everything, because I put.
Oh, I'm going to show that in a minute. Don't steal the thunder.
Okay.
We'll get there in a second. Okay. All right, and here Lenworth Johnson has his Platypod set up at a right angle. I'm going to show you how to do that in slightly different setup for this amazing lighting that he applied to product photography, where you get this beautiful highlights over here by using a Carl Taylor light cone. This is available from V-Flat World for wrapping light around products, and then you just apply the light from the outside, and you just get these amazing highlights coming in here. Another use for the Platypod handle, used down here, just the 3-inch lower section. Skip Dickstein, who's a equine photographer and a Platypod Pro, is at the Kentucky Derby getting the finish line, where Pretty Mischievous holds off Gambling Girl for the win, and is able to do a remote setup where he's able to fire his camera from 1,000 feet away to get these finishing line shots. And of course, he could not be there on the ground with these cameras, and he just wanted to have it lifted up a little bit off the ground. Perfect tool for his purpose. Similar concept to avoid getting your camera caught in the snow, but you do want to get low angles. With 6 inches of snow like this, or maybe it's 5 inches, Chris Blair, who's the professional videographer who's done all of our recent Kickstarter videos, is using this for video shots and for stills to get action shots for Platypod. And this was taken up in Muskoka, Canada, where Chris lives. All right, we will show that image that you were talking about right now, Larry, using a clamp with the Platypod. So yeah. I'll come back to this slide in a second, and let me just illustrate what's going on over here. So for food photography, where you want to get overhead shots of the food, and this can be used in product photography or in macro as well. So we have this kind of a rig, and I'll explain exactly what's going on here. Clamp is the one bit of extra equipment that you will need. This one I got at Home Depot for about $10, made by Bessie. Pony makes similar clamps, but any clamp will work. This one just ratchets on in place just to prevent any forward tipping here, okay? Now that I've got that set up, let's take a look at what this can do. First of all, we've got a Platypod Extreme at the base, a Platypod handle above that, which can be further extended up. Then I have a Platball here to give some angulation. If I want to go 90 degrees, I can by just using one of the side detents. Here I've chosen just to go 45 degrees forward to get a lot of height out of this. Then I have two lights on here from LumaCube, which are available at the Platypod website. That's being held by goosenecks and elbows on here for maximum mobility. And I've got another ball head. This one's from Benro at the top. And here I can simply go and mount my camera on here. And that's nice and sturdy. I can adjust the camera if I want to see the picture and it's a little bit above me. Well, my camera has a flip up screen, so I can just flip this up and see what I'm shooting there. And I can even go a little bit higher over here. What's the point here? Why not just use a tripod? Well, if I'm going into a restaurant and it's active and there's customers around and I want to be getting my shots, you don't want something for customers to be tripping over like a tripod on the ground. Here, I just do my setup. The food keeps coming in from the chef. I take my images, and before you know it, the restaurateur has a full set of images for their menus. A lot of them are doing their menus on iPads now, and customers can look at each and every food item that they are considering ordering. So this is a really great setup, and you have it all in one place. Larry, I thought you had a comment on this as well.
Well, it just strikes me that that's a lot of weight that you're hovering over the table, and the handles can handle a lot of weight. And one of the things that I do isn't quite as complicated a setup. I've used that kind of setup too, but I have a little bit simpler setup that I keep set up almost all the time, and it is a Platypod as my base. It's clamped to a table. Then I immediately put the ball head on top of that, so I don't go to the handle right away. So Platypod, then ball head, then the handle, and then another ball head at the other end to hold my camera. And it's actually just holding my iPhone most of the time because I use it as a scanner. So I use it to get my phone just perfectly level and perfectly steady, and then I bring in all kinds of documents, and this has become a pretty big deal. And it's kind of a weird thing, but my brother and I have to share a lot of printed documents. We're taking care of our father, and he gets documents in the mail, and then I need to make sure that my brother has copies of those documents, and to have a really good, really fast way to accurately capture these documents in the right orientation. It's just such a quick, lightweight, easy to use setup. I think it's fantastic, and it's very, very simple to set up and use.
And Larry, just one comment. If you're mentioning iPhones, if somebody wants to use this with an iPhone, just get a simple tripod mount. We use these from Square Jellyfish. Right now, they're on back order, but they will be available, we're told, in October. And these can be mounted on a quick release disc. It could be mounted on a gooseneck or one of our elbows. So if you want to go and do this with an iPhone, you can. And again, here is the final image from Bob Coates, just this lovely overhead shot with little sprinklings of salt and peppercorns and all that, just to give it some spice. But you can see now how this is done. And Bob does a similar setup with floral photography. This is a stacking of about 60 images of this beautiful lily with a very complex setup. I told you, Bob's quite the technician over here, but just to get the right lighting on his image. And just quickly, our accessories, we've shown the Platypod disc. We do have the clamps available. I used that before to hold up a mirror, so we have the clamps. You can also use these. This is great for holding up forks and spoons to show off food items with. And we also mentioned the goosenecks, the elbows, and our multi-accessory kit, which has in it a rubber pad. It has a strap on it for strapping on to poles and railings, a carabiner to carry your platypod on your belt or on your backpack, the spigot adapter for lighting equipment, and all very convenient and held together in one little bag there. Dave Williams is showing how he has strapped a platypod onto a railing to get this multiple image, which he then processed through Photoshop to get a ghost image of the train going into the mountain. And Tony Corbell, who's a grandmaster photography instructor and lighting expert and Platypod Pro, how he's taking a picture of his wife, Mandy, using these columns as light stands. You don't have to carry light stands around with you because you can mount lights using platypods and the straps. And you can see the final image with beautiful lighting here. And we'll show you one more image here from Bob Coates, who's doing a time lapse of the mountains in Sedona, and just showing the last glimmering of the sunset on the mountain tops. And I don't know if you'll hear music on this, but we'll give it a try. And I guess this is we're just going to wrap up, and we'll close up in a few minutes with some questions. I would encourage anyone who wants to learn more about platypods. Every month we come out with a great newsletter with 3 articles in it from top photographers, myself excluded, and you can learn how to use your platypod equipment. We also have announcements in this newsletter. We just released one a few days ago, but you can still get the August newsletter if you sign up. If you sign up soon, you'll also see special offers and things like that in the Platypod Ecosystem on the Horizon monthly newsletter. I'd also encourage you, those of you who want, okay, so on the left you see the newsletter. On the right-hand side, sign up for the Platypod Users Official group on Facebook. Go to Facebook, look up Platypod Users Official, and you'll get permission very quickly to join our users group. We're up over 1,300 members, and when we hit 1,500 members, there's going to be a drawing for, I believe it's a Platball Elite randomly for one of the members, and that's really exciting, and a lot of people are having a good time. We got some top photographers who are joining in, and that is the end of my talk. And Larry,
Awesome.
let's go to Q&A before they kick us out of here.
Yeah, we're 1 minute over already, so I'm going to jump right in and really quickly ask you a few questions that popped up. First one is Steve from PNW, I'm guessing Pacific Northwest, and he says, I've been trying to buy the ball head from the booth, I'm guessing the virtual trade show booth, for the last hour, and he couldn't get it done. The price is better than the KelbyOne price that he could find, and so it was the red one. So he wants to get that cleared up.
Go to platypod.com. We're running a summer sale on the Platyballs. The prices are already low, and if you go now, you will get your additional 20% off that price. You'll save well over $100 from the original Platyball price of $385. So go on there now.
Alrighty, Jeff said in the past, both of you have shown multiple attachments for cell phones. Could you list the different parts needed to hold cell phones? Thank you, Jeff. And you kind of did this earlier, Dr. T.
So again, my apologies that we don't have this available yet. These sold out a few months ago, and our manufacturer is kind of dragging. Hopefully by mid-October, we'll have the square jellyfish smartphone holder. It's a really great holder, folds up to almost nothing, and it will accommodate any size iPhone, including like an OtterBox case to it. So certainly easily mine over here. But this is not the Max. My wife has a Max. It'll work on that. And then to attach this, you just put on one of our Arca discs at the base, and then you can mount this onto any ball head. You could put it on a platypod, but you won't know what direction it's going on. However, if you put this on the platypod handle, even without a ball head, you'll then be able to raise this up to eye height. And since the handle turns around 360 degrees, you'll be able to use this for video webcasting, vlogging, whatever. Just put your phone on here like this, and you're ready to go. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, that's great.
So look for us in October. We will hopefully have the square jellyfish. There are other brands. Honestly, this is my favorite, and that's where we're going to be selling.
Well, I've got a used one I'll sell somebody for like $90.
I know, I'm not giving up mine either.
Okay, and our final question comes to us from Helen, and Helen asks, what's the difference between Platypod Extreme and the Max?
Okay, I happen to have a Max over here for those of you who are interested. It's no longer available on our website. B&H still does have them. So Max weighs, let me take an Extreme. Max weighs a little bit more. Max was about 12 ounces. The Extreme is about 9.5 ounces. Max has the same spikes, but in a magnetic holder, and you have to individually place in the spikes. This usually takes about 60 to 90 seconds to put the spikes in, whereas these deploy in a matter of 3 seconds. So I find this just a lot more useful. This has the carrying handle. It has more mounting holes than the Max did. So this was great for its time. And for those who still like it, what is nice about the Max is that when you take off the magnetic holder, you have an infinite amount of space. So if you have architectural geared heads, Max actually might be a little bit better for you, but not too many of you own those. So I think for most people, the Extreme would be the way to go. A lot more convenient now.
Very good. Dr. T, thank you so much for showing us around the Platypod ecosystem. There's the Platypod, the Platyball, the new Platypod handle that was just wrapped up with Kickstarter, and all those orders are being fulfilled now. And it's becoming available to the general public to order now. And I'm
very proud to say, Larry, that we fulfilled our Platypod handle orders anywhere from 3 weeks to 5 weeks in advance.
Nice.
Which almost never happens on Kickstarter. So very proud of my team, especially Skip Cohen, who has helped to manage the sales for the Kickstarter, and the fulfillment is we're almost done fulfilling orders. If you haven't submitted your survey for that, please do ASAP.
There is so much great gear from the Platypod family. I find myself using it all the time, and all kinds of photographers, as soon as they find out about it, they're using it all the time too. Dr. T, thank you for going the extra mile and showing us so many great behind the scenes setups and showing us some great photography, great photographers, and their secrets for how they set up their shots, and sharing so much good information about the Platypod ecosystem. Folks, thank you so much for sticking around to this later evening training session. We're going to start back again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we're going to have those breakout sessions. We're going to have bonus sessions, lots of stuff going on the virtual trade show floor. So make sure you stay active, stay in the chats, come on back and watch all of the sessions that are happening live tomorrow in Track A and Track B. And with that said, Dr. T, do you have anything else?
Yes, thank you all for attending this session. And for those of you who are joining in, please check out the website. There's so much more there. And just love being here. We'll hopefully catch you at the next KelbyOne conference.
And with that said, that's a wrap. We'll see you guys here again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. Have a great night.